Okay, just a quick update on state of play with the Sherline mill. Well, I've done quite a few bits and pieces to it. I've added the work light. Now, this is the standard work light that I used on my Warco, and it's turned out to be superb. They're cheap as chips. You can get them off Amazon. I think you can probably get them off eBay as well. They're magnetic sewing machine lights, LED based, as you can see from that. That's the magnet mount there. Now I had to attach a small steel plate to the aluminium of the column mount because obviously it's a magnet. The only model I make to these is I put a bit of an acrylic cube around the actual light. It protects the LEDs because these are there's no film or glass over those, so this protects the LEDs, and it does make a very good work light. Very useful. I've got one on the lathe. They're just excellent. I've also fitted an RPM counter to it. Let's come up a little bit and we'll come in closer on that. So there you can see the Hall effect sensor there, and there is the magnet to trigger it, and over here at the back is the display. So we'll run that up so you can see it in action. Right, let's try this. I had to fiddle around a little bit with the Hall effect sensor and the magnet. The original magnet wasn't very good. It wasn't strong enough, and I had to have the sensor right near it. So I've changed it for a rare earth magnet, and it now seems to be fairly stable, and it works very well. So wind it down a little bit, up a little bit. So I've now got some reasonably good idea of the speed. So that works quite well. I'll just pull this off of the back. Basically with this, you've just got the display. I've just mounted it on a bit of wood. The metal spacers are because where the ribbon cable goes in under the bottom of the display, this display is designed to be panel mounted, and there's no clearance, so that just provides a bit of clearance for the ribbon cable so it's not under stress. And that's it. That's basically the display. It sits up on the top of the old toolbox there quite nicely. Right, so that's the RPM counter. What else? Let's come back out again on that and have a look down here. I managed to acquire a 1/4 inch end mill, which will fit the one socket I currently have. I'm still waiting on the ER16 collet set from Banggood, and obviously the collet chunk that goes with it. But I did manage to acquire a little bit of tooling and some spare belts. There is one problem that I've identified with this lathe. It's not a problem, it's just something that really does need addressing. Now I'll move the camera around so you can get a better view of it. The Y-axis screw for the bed is exposed, both at the front here and obviously when you've got it wound all this way. At the behind here it is exposed as well. So you know, even the smallest amount of milling, this gets absolutely covered in chips. And I was trying to work out a way of shielding this, but I had a look online, and it turns out that Sherline have already addressed this problem, and they sell a Concertina type cover for the Y-axis lead screw. It comes in the form of a kit, and fortunately, thanks to one of the contributors, I discovered that there is Mill Hill Supplies in the UK who actually import all the Sherline bits and pieces. Got in touch with them, they had a kit. In fact, they had a couple of kits, so I've purchased one, and we'll go and have a look at that in a minute. I haven't fitted it yet, that's a job to be done, but that will protect the Y-axis screw. Okay, so this is the original tooling that I got with the lathe, was the Jacob's chuck. I've acquired some more in the intervening period of time. This is a RDG Tools fly cutter head. It's got a MT1 taper, which is the spindle taper on the Sherline. I had to make a drawbar up for it, which is this little one here. Basically, the drawbars that I got that came with it, one for the collet and one for the Jacob's chuck. They're obviously imperial threads, and this is, being a modern bit of tooling, this is metric, this is 6mm. So I had to make a simple drawbar up for it, which is quite easy. Although you do have to have this little top hat section here, which is on this original drawbar. This centers the drawbar in the top of the spindle, so that was fairly simple machining job on the lathe. I didn't have a cutter, but I do have a load of cutters left over from my very first lathe, which was a grind turn, tiny little modeller's lathe. And the cutters were about 1/4 inch square, and they fit nicely in the fly cutter head. So I found one relatively unused one which had a rounded tip, and that has turned out to work very well. I also had ordered some T-nuts. They've come through. They fit the bed on the Sherline very nicely. They're 1032 UNF thread, so I've got a load of bolts for those. Spare drive belts, and this at the back is the kit for the protection of the Y-axis screw. This is quite a nice idea, really. As you can see, it is a Concertina cover with sides. Now, I've been reading through the instructions. This is the front. This covers the front part of the Y-axis screw, and this covers the rear part of the Y-axis screw. And basically, this, as far as I can understand it, this spring there that holds this plate, that wraps around the column, and that holds this plate against the column. Then there are these. Basically, that would sit like that, and this one will sit like this over the front. And then these long bolts, they go through and hold these plates against the table support. And then this is fixed using, I believe, a spring at the front where the hand wheel is. So I've got to have a play with this and get it fitted on. Hopefully this will very nicely protect the Y-axis screw. That's really about it. Oh, you might have seen this over on the table, over on the bench where the mill actually is. And this is another work in progress. This will be a tooling plate. When I can generate the motivation to drill and tap 44 10 UNF holes. It's a block of aluminium which is going to make up a tooling plate. Tooling plates very useful when it comes to a mill, particularly on mine because I've only got the small vise. Yeah, that's something for the future as well. As I said, that requires motivation. Anyway, there you go. Quick update on the Sherline 5000mm. Hope you found it useful. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.